Hey, good afternoon. Welcome day 19. As I'd mentioned yesterday in the game, I wanted to resolve a couple bugs or a bug that I had introduced. And the bug was when you click on the tower itself, the panel click area was substantial, and it wasn't just on top of the tower itself. It was using the whole collision zone. So I resolved that today. I also added in upgrades as part of the towers themselves. I made that upgrade button work. I didn't touch that sell button. I didn't want to think about that too much. But there also uh, I moved some things around as part of the logic, as part of the code, because I wanted to just kind of start a little more organization again. It never hurts to refactor as you go, as you learn new things. So I'm not super crazy about what I did there, but I think I'm getting closer to something a little better. I might start creating some additional resources, some additional nodes within the individual towers themselves to house some of this information. Because calculating it each time and figuring all that stuff out, do I want to do it on the fly? Do I want to just go ahead and put it on there? A lot of those are big it depends situations. I also have the attack timer, I believe, being set up in a couple different areas. We have the main tower itself setting up the attack timer based on the levels. So when you level up, it's changing it. So we'll talk about that real quick, and we'll also show you what I have in the game. So a little bit what I've been playing with as well is I wanted to take a look at the actual stats and try and figure out a bit more how I actually want to uh, what sort of increment what sort of growth do I want to create. So do I just want there to be a few levels and not substantial incremental growth? Do I want to figure those things out? I don't know. This my first time actually having to think about it. So as you can see here in the code, I did land on 1.5 for the damage, and then I noticed when I did 1.5 per level, the bullets were turning into laser beams before you hit before you hit level 10. So it was really freaking cool to see. And maybe I can demo it real quick and show the how the growth was just crazy when it came to attack speed and can it instead of anyways. But I can show it a little bit here in data. So the attack speed, if we are to go to, I'm actually going to change this size a bit so we can look at both of them at the same time. So if we were to go take a look at the actual resource, so let's go down to the actual entities. Let's go to the stats. Let's go to basic tower. Basic tower fires every 0.66 seconds. So it fires roughly every uh oh good lord. So how many times in a second is that? So it would take, oh geez, my math my math is off. If it was 1, it would fire once a second. If it was 1.6, it would fire roughly once every second and a half, like 1.4 seconds or something. Whatever the math is on that. So let's take a look at this. So if I was to put the stat at 0.66 and the stat growth was at 1.5, we would find that by level 5, we were at 3 shots per second, and level 10, we're at 25 shots per second. So playing with that again, 1.1 is where I landed and it felt okay. It still puts us up at 1.55 shots per second, which puts it really close with our fast shooter boy. Now, I could play around with that a little bit more. Maybe I want to do like 1.15. That'll put us up still quite a bit more. So there's still some room that we can play around with and figure out where we want to land. But let's talk about the damage. So the damage is what it was at just a moment ago. You can see I did put some pricing stuff on there. I haven't actually done anything with the cost per upgrade. Because right now we're just going to blast it and see what it feels like at different levels. So, let's play. So with the stats, We're going to start off at level 1 with 10 damage, level 2, 15, level 3, 22. And the actual cost on each of these, this is where I may just need to adjust the price on the Fast Boy, because I have that at 400. And at 400, I can have a level 6 running at 371. And if you saw with the actual stat at point, so 371, 0.66 at, let's do 1.1. We're not quite blowing it out of the water from a speed, from a fire rate perspective. It still fires faster, but the overall damage per second is going to be less expensive with uh, the overall cost of just upgrading this to a high level. So feels like there's a little balance that needs to be done. So maybe the Fast Boy will be like 120 instead of 100, and so I mean 400 is what I threw on there just to gauge some things, and I think that's okay. So let's take a look at Fast Boy and find out what it has for speed. So at fire rate we have 2.1. For the stat growth, we have 1.1, and it's going to still be sitting at under 4 by the time that it gets up to a higher. So, I mean, that's still pretty fast. You know, in a second, 4 point, almost 5 shots per second. That's still really fast. I can decrease the size of the actual bullet itself so it doesn't look so much like a laser beam. Or I can keep it at, looking like a laser beam. I think that's pretty cool, but it just didn't fit right now. Not even talking about price right now, but at damage, we have 7 and 1.5. So it's going to be doing... I was thinking about capping at level 5, by the way. I just wanted to throw that out there. Capping at level 5, it's fine. More towers. Add more towers. Don't add more power up front. Anyways, another time. But this, for the amount of damage it's actually doing, at level 5, we're doing 35 damage. Now, remember, let's go ahead and put this back at the 10. So level 5, 35 compared to 50. So it's getting speed. It's going to be doing a lot more shots per second. So we need to be able to have some sort of balance on there. All right. So I've been talking a lot about the numbers. This is pretty cool. Again, this is not something that I have done before. I haven't had to think about this. But at this point, this is all balance. I'm going to create some spreadsheets so I can see all the data, or maybe I'll create a scene within Godot so I can see it all, and we'll figure out how things work. So maybe I can create some sort of system that I can put them all at different levels. I could put all the costs and I can check the fairness on everything. I'm very interested in learning how to use Godot to do all these things for me. Unfortunately, at this point, it's not the best, calculator, because Excel and Google Sheets, #1 calculator. What did someone say? One of the best application inventions of all time. I don't know if I believe it. I hate functions in here, but I love calculations. Anyways, past that. So let's take a look at anything else that was changed. So as part of the stats panel, I was talking a little bit about, I was having the issue where I was able to click within a collision zone. So one thing to note, if you take a look over here in, let me go ahead and make this a little larger, in our scene, I have now a click zone and an enemy zone. So this is an interesting one. This, I think, is freaking cool, because I wasn't aware of the click zone having an input. Let me get to it real quick. Input pickable. Input pickable allows you to capture that actual input click. So when I turn this on and I go to the game and I do start game, I can click in the middle here. Oh no, it's making a fool of me. You know what? That's okay. I was having issues before where with the input clickable, it was actually having the input command. So I'm going to learn a little bit more about the pickable, and yeah, it's right there. Object is pickable. Pickable object can detect mouse pointer entering and leaving, and if the mouse is inside of it, report input events. You know what? That's okay. I'm going to play around with that a little bit more and figure out why it was working before and why it's not working now. So, is it because I saved? Is it something? That's a little something I'm going to add to my list to check out. So, anyways, so created a click zone. If we take a look inside of here, you're going to see that there are two different areas, two different zones. So, first of all, this shape right here, which actually I'm going to change the color on this because why not? Let's make it more red. Let's make it a little, okay, cool. So this is the actual firing zone. This is the range where it can detect enemies. In here, the blue is going to be the area where I can detect actual clicking. So when we go into the game, let's go in the game real quick and hit play. As I mentioned before, now I do still have one more bug on here that I need to resolve, and that's because I can click anywhere and the shop still pops up. But, excuse me, but if I click on our boy here, yeah, see, there's the shop, it's going to show us the menu. And that's pretty cool. I still have the ordering on. Anyways, so as I click on our guys here, we're getting the menu pop up. But I'm not getting it when I click outside of that area, which is again what was happening before. So I broke the zones up into two. So I was really happy with that, be able to have two different collision zones and to be able to see all the things. All right. So the next thing that I want to talk about real quick is this actual pop-up itself. So the pop-up is again providing us with the details that we have, the level, the damage, and the fire rate. The other thing that I added on here was the sell. It's not doing anything, but also the upgrade. So right now, upgrades are free. You can see they're actually upgrading stats. They're upgrading fire rate. And there are no bounds, no limits to it at this point. So I can put it up to 20 and we're getting much faster fire rate. I can put it up to 30, much faster. We're just absolutely killing everything. But you see how that damage is absolutely like to the moon. So let's put it up here and let's get our frickin' laser. All right. We got a laser. One other thing that I slid in here because I was really excited about. I'm clicking around and I'm adding the shop on here, but take a look at this. Now I guarantee you I'm clicking. Can you hear that? I know you can. Anyways, the trail is no longer clickable. Now, I want to show that one off because I think that's pretty cool too. So let's go into our main scene. So that's going to be what I'm calling level 1, high hopes. So if I was to go into here, ooh, I've got an idea. All right, I'm coming back to that later. If I come into TileMap layer, let's actually go into the TileMap layer scene because I did break that up. So I created a tile set with TileMap layer. And if I go into the tile set, I need to look at those later. And so tile map layer, let's do this. Okay, in the top right corner, if I click on tile set, there's something in here called custom data layers. So inside of custom data layers, you can add a specific parameter that you want to be able to identify, right? The next thing that you can do is on your actual tile set, you can do a paint and you can come down to your custom data and you can select your parameter. For me, all of these guys are going to be part of that actual trail that the enemies can walk on. It's not something that I want to actually build on, but here are the 5 that I want to be able to build on, which is everything outside that trail. Yeah, so now we have the parameter. So how is that actually being used? Now I'm going to warn you, I'm going to show you a really big controller script, and I'm sorry, it's gross, work in progress. So I created this function that is buildable. So when there is an unhandled click event, which is what I have a little bit of a bug on, right? We say, is buildable, and we're going to actually we're going to pass in the mouse position. Now, I don't need to. I can just put it down here in the method. Whatever, we'll work through it. But the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the TileMap layer. We're going to get the local. I have some zoom on my camera, so everything is off. It's gross. So I have to divide by 3 in order to actually get the specific position on the viewport. And then we get the actual cell. And then we get the cell data, and we check to see if it's buildable. And if it is buildable, so we pull the cell off of that layer, and if it's buildable, then we get the pop-up. So that was pretty cool. But I'm starting to think, how can I actually use that in the rest of my game? So if you remember, I built a process of being able to throw down enemies and they follow a path. And the path is followed pretty well. But what if I don't want to do that anymore? What if I just want to set all the tiles that are part of the path to be a walking area, and all of the enemies just find their way to the destination? And that allows us to do things like knockback, and so I might even be able to knock them off the path, but then they get back on the path. I can absolutely knock them around, but once they hit their destination, then they will be at a point of dealing damage, decreasing the health overall. I think it's going to be a little more upfront processing of the enemies actually finding their way, especially at scale. And I'm interested in seeing that. I don't plan on there being hundreds of enemies on the screen, but that would be really cool if there was. And so if they all have to calculate their own trail, what does that do to the GPU? What does that do to the actual... But it would be really cool just to throw an enemy on a map and let them find their way. And then at that point, it wouldn't be so robotic. The enemies might be able to go around an obstacle in a different way than another one. You can knock an enemy over, and maybe I'll have 2 paths, and the enemy will start, we'll take one over the other. So I think there's a little bit of thought process put into that I would love to investigate. So anyways, I'm pretty excited about how things are going. Right after this video, I'm going to, or tonight, we'll see. I'm probably going to play with that shop panel a bit more and just start figuring out how I can identify if there is a tower where I'm clicking. The other thing that I want to do, and this really just came to mind, is if I'm okay. Makes me happy. If I click on a cell, so right now, I'm placing a tower on a position where I click. It has nothing to do with coordinates. It has nothing to do with anywhere that the tiles are. But entertain this idea. What if I was to actually put the towers inside of a cell? So now... One, I'd be able to say, is it buildable not only from the floor, from the actual tile set itself, but the other question is there already a tower in this cell? Yeah. You know what? I think that's freaking cool. I don't know about you guys. I'm pretty stoked about that. So I was hoping that this whole thing would be able to be built up based on those tiles. And I'm starting to move in that direction. The only things that I'm not doing with that are the panels. And again, that's okay. They're just floating UI elements with data. And if I wanted to put them on the panels, I could also start using some, pixel font, and I'm not interested in that. Anyways, I'm starting to get a little more excited about some of these things. Again, I'm not really following what my Chat GPT friend was telling me, kind of from a learning thing. I will get there and I will start still pulling concepts. I'm not going to follow such a rigid thing. I want to get better even at the basic concepts. I want to be able to build a game from scratch without having to do all the crazy things new. I mean, I want to be able to be comfortable with the crazy things and optimal ways of being able to put things on here without um, without having to rely on Google or the Chat GPT. So, anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and end it there. I'm pretty excited with where I'm at. I keep saying that every day, but I'm learning new things all the time. And when I feel like we run into a roadblock of something that just doesn't feel like it belongs, or it's a tough day for learning, and those are some of the roadblocks that make it difficult. But overall, game development it's not easy. Now, it's not hard. There's just so much. There are a million ways to do it. And finding those different ways, and I've been watching a lot of videos on Godot and again game theory, and just having so much fun with listening to people talk about the ways that they would do something. And it is really cool. And it is really complex. Now, for instance, today I was watching a video when I first started working today, excuse me, when I first started working on this game today. It was about damage physics and absolute destruction of environments. Now, one thing that they started talking about was the idea that you have two objects, and you have one that's the non-destroyed and a second one that is destroyed. So you blow it up and you just replace it with the other one. You might do some, fancy explosions in the middle and destruction, but you go from model A to model B. And then you start getting into other games that model A is all there is. You're just displacing it and you're doing other stuff with it. So it looks like it fits perfectly in because it does. And you start moving it and everything around it starts moving too. And it's the cleverness of being able to build that up without absolutely destroying somebody's machine. That is that's very fascinating to me. And so I want to be able to scale this game. I want to be able to see how many enemies I can throw on the screen before I kill my machine. So I may end up creating a scene that has 40 towers, and it's going to have, an enemy being created every zero point zero 0.01 seconds. I want to push it to the limits and see when I can kill the FPS. And if it kills my machine, even better. So anyways, I'm having so much fun with this, and I hope you're enjoying watching these as much as I am actually going through this journey. I'm hoping the 60 days is not going to be the end of me having these conversations with you, talking to you, and all the comments that I'm getting on YouTube, and the encouragement I'm getting on LinkedIn. This is absolutely incredible. And again, I wish to continue. And again, maybe we'll get into a learning series. Maybe we'll get into something. But anyways, I appreciate you all. Have a great day.